What's happening, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for July the 10th of 2019. Of course, if you are brand new to the program, welcome to the show, and if you don't know, this is a daily gaming news podcast where I bring you the hottest gaming news from around the industry, and I keep you up to date and informed on everything happening in the industry that we all do love. Now, I will say, this is the 28th hour in a row that I've been awake. I am incredibly tired, but guess what? The show must go on, ladies and gentlemen, so we keep the ball rolling. But of course, if you don't want to watch the show live on twitch.tv/Samuel Adams, you can find it on youtube.com/Samuel Adams Media, as well as podcast services around the world. But today, our headline story is the fact that Cuphead is getting an animated Netflix series. It sounds like a pretty good fit to me. On top of that, speaking of stuff that's related to gaming but not directly related to gaming, Detective Pikachu is now the second highest grossing video game movie of all time, and it's in striking distance of the top spot. It's doing very well for itself. For fans of Super Monkey Ball, there is a brand new game rated for PC, PS4, and Nintendo Switch. Super Mario Maker 2 is incredibly popular, but over 2 million levels have been created. Fortnite is getting a very cool new piece of equipment you can use in your next battle. YouTube is making it easier for creators to deal with copyright claims. Now, I thought about not including this story on today's show, but considering how many people create content in 2019 and considering how incredibly important YouTube is becoming, I thought that we would go ahead and cover it on today's show. Then, Nintendo Switch Online is looking pretty good for July, but a brand new feature really takes the cake when it comes down to what exactly is worth talking about when it comes to what's coming in July for Nintendo Switch Online. And finally, Xbox Game Pass, because there is a brand new feature that you could be using if you are a fan of the Game Pass offering from Xbox. But that's pretty much the lineup for today's show, and again, I do hope you enjoy it. And you do enjoy the show every single day, which again, it's hosted 5 days a week. Subscribe if you do enjoy what I bring to the table. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top stories. First off, Cuphead is coming to Netflix as an animated series. Cuphead, the notoriously difficult side-scroller based on classic cartoons, is coming to Netflix as an animated series. Called The Cuphead Show, Dave Wasson, Mickey Mouse Shorts, and Cosmo Sergeson, believe I said that correctly, Rocko's Modern Life, Static Cling, very cool, will serve as co-executive producers alongside the game's creators, Chad and Jared Moldenhauer. The original game caught our attention at E3 in 2015 with a wild series of lavish boss battles. When the game finally came out as an Xbox One exclusive in 2017, critics and fans were smitten despite the game's punishing difficulty. In Polygon's review, they noted that those challenges were eclipsed by dozens of tiny breakthroughs when the impossible became possible. Cuphead has since launched on Nintendo Switch and Windows PC, and as for the show, details remain somewhat light. The character-driven comedy follows the unique misadventures of the impulsive Cuphead and his cautious but easily swayed brother, Mugman, says the official press release. Through their many misadventures across their surreal home of Inkwell Isles, they've always got one another's backs. Netflix goes on to note that the Cuphead brand was done extraordinarily well with its licensed merchandise, including partnerships with Funko, McFarlane Toys, Dark Horse Comics, as well as retail partnerships with Target, Walmart, and others. On a recent tour of Disneyland, we even spotted a few Cuphead shirts on guest. They fit right in with the park's aesthetic, no surprise considering that the game's art style was based on Max Fleischer's, I probably mispronounced that name, cartoons, which were contemporary to early animations by Walt Disney. No premiere date for the Cuphead show has been set, but the program already has a landing page on the Netflix web app. And as for the video game, downloadable content for Cuphead is still in active development, and as we talked about last week, I believe, I almost said yesterday, they all blend together, the delicious last course is now coming out in 2020 after a bit of a delay. But there is the key art for the Cuphead show, and I must say, a pretty good fit nonetheless. Of course, for those that don't know, Cuphead is pretty much just begging to be made into a show. There is no reason why it shouldn't get its own cartoon, especially on Netflix, where it can be produced and put out to an audience that is more than likely at least somewhat familiar with the name Cuphead. But I love the art style. I think it's going to do very well as a show, and of what I understand, it's not going to have quite the same aesthetic as Cuphead the game. It will look very similar, but in certain ways it will probably shift a bit, so don't expect something that is a direct interpretation of what you get from Cuphead, but also don't expect something that's one of those weird 3D modeled strange cartoons like we have today. In other words, you aren't going to be getting a Cuphead version of PJ Masks, thank God. But if you are looking forward to that, it should be coming out later in 2019. Very exciting times for fans of Cuphead and for animated shows on Netflix, because the animations department over there at Netflix is doing some pretty impressive stuff. Speaking of pretty impressive animations, Detective Pikachu is now the second highest grossing video game movie of all time, and it's in striking distance of the top spot. Pokemon Detective Pikachu has racked up enough box office takings to make it the second highest earning video game movie ever, and it's painfully close to the first place. According to takings tracker Box Office Mojo, the last few days saw the Pokemon spin-off adaptation hit $429 million in worldwide box office takings, pushing it past a lesser thought of but wildly successful video game movie, 2018's Rampage, which I totally forgot existed. Rampage has an unfair advantage in that it has The Rock, of course, but it's also based off a much less well-known gaming franchise, Midway Games' brawler that sees players take control of giant monsters inspired by classic monster movie Beast. Rampage topped out at $428 million in box office takings, so Detective Pikachu, has now slipped comfortably into second place. And I will say, number one, if you haven't played Rampage, my God, it's a classic. On top of that, Detective Pikachu, look how fuzzy he is. That's what blows me away. I'm not a fan of Pokemon by any stretch of the imagination. I never really played it that much as a kid. I just remained familiar with it because, hey, I need to know what's happening in the world of gaming so I can do this show for you guys out there. But even that being said, the show is incredibly impressive. I am blown away by the fact that we actually have this fuzzy little thing on a movie screen that's actually bringing in tons and tons of cash. It deserves the number one spot for video game movie without a doubt, but if you do want to go see the movie, I'm sure it's still out in theaters. I think it could be coming out on DVD soon, if I remember correctly. Could be a pretty good time, and of course, as Champion June says in the chat, it gets me fuzzy looking at little fuzzy Pikachu here. I don't know if that means you need to shave or what, but hey, whatever floats your boat, man. But if you do want to pick up Detective Pikachu, should be coming out on Blu-ray, DVD, Redbox, whatever you want to call it, pretty dang soon. But maybe you want to play Super Monkey Ball. A new Super Monkey Ball has been rated for PC, PS4, and the Nintendo Switch. It looks like Super Monkey Ball might be making a comeback. Sega has seemingly been working on some sort of Super Monkey Ball revival, as a new game was just unearthed through the Taiwanese rating board, a very notable source for a lot of leaks. The curious thing is that the listing doesn't have an English name just yet, which makes it hard to find on the official directory unless you type in the Chinese name like Gold Medal Sonic did. The theme definitely has something to do with food though, because the Chinese and Japanese names listed both reference something tasting good. Sega recently registered the name Tabagoro Super Monkey Ball in Japan, so that could be the official name. Setting aside the name for a moment, the cover art is hard to attribute to anything but Super Monkey Ball, and of course, I don't know what else would this be. That's literally that's a Super Monkey Ball game. The mysterious Super Monkey Ball project is coming to PC, PS4, and the Nintendo Switch, and we obviously don't know yet if this is a remaster or a re-release of some kind, or if we are looking at an entirely new game. Super Monkey Ball is a classic platformer originating in the arcades that later became the mostly associated game with Nintendo platforms. The originals outside of the arcade were GameCube exclusives, although some of the later games did make it to PS2 and the original Xbox. The most recent proper Super Monkey Ball came to the Vita in 2012. Long live the Vita. Long live the Vita. Long live the Vita. But no, sincerely, cool game nonetheless. Not one that I really grew up on, but whenever I think about Super Monkey Ball, I do think about GameCube. I immediately go straight to Nintendo and think about what that game console had to offer when it comes to these unique experiences like Super Monkey Ball. Of course, classic platformer as the description does say, and it's cool to see at least some kind of new Super Monkey Ball project coming down the pipe, just because it seems like it's a fitting time for that, especially on the Nintendo Switch, where you can take anything that has even the slightest hint of nostalgia and absolutely get people riled up over it. And I think this is a good fit for that exact scenario. So, of course, we have no definitive release date. We have no definitive name, even in English, at the moment. But we do know there is a brand new Super Monkey Ball project in development for PS4, Xbox One. Just kidding. Sorry. PC. Whole bunch of consoles. PS4, Xbox, PS4, Switch, and PC. This long day is getting to me today. If you don't have an Xbox, you're in the clear to play some Super Monkey Ball, pretty much. But with that being said, if you do have a Nintendo Switch, players have created over 2 million levels on Super Mario Maker 2, and it's only been 11 days since the game's release. To take a brief pause before we dive into this, that's what blows me away about Super Mario Maker, is that whenever I think about my gaming habits, if somebody were to give me the opportunity to make something in a creative space, I probably wouldn't take the opportunity. With Super Mario Maker 2, people continuously blow me away time after time by making so many levels. It's insane. Even with the story mode, people are still making these levels. Super Mario Maker 2, players are having a busy summer. Nintendo announced today that players have uploaded 2 million courses on the level creator since its worldwide release on June the 28th. The highly anticipated Nintendo Switch sequel to Super Mario Maker also lets users create courses that anyone can play, but with a world of assets and features not seen in the original. Players can choose between 100 Nintendo-designed levels or any of the levels created by other Mario fans. Creating a course in Super Mario Maker 2 lets players experience what it's like to be a game designer. Let's take another brief pause. Absolutely not. You are piecing together Legos, you rudimentary child. But moving on, and it's one of the game's most unique features, so it's no surprise that it has taken off. One Canadian superfan has already rolled out a full 32-course game. Really, anyone can create a level, and if the number of uploads is any indication, everyone has tried. User-created levels can range from brilliant creations by world-class gamers to something your 5-year-old cousin could beat in under 20 minutes. There's a level inspired by steamed hams meme from The Simpsons, and even one made by Arby's. That's right, an Arby's level. Luckily, Super Mario Maker 2 has a way for players to separate the wheat from the chaff, and if you go to the popular tab in the game's online course world, you can easily find the courses that are resonating with the most of the other players. But again, very cool game, very cool project. Overall, if you want a platformer, one specific platformer on the Nintendo Switch that's just going to keep on giving new content, this is it, Chief, because I had to add the Chief in there. This is it because, quite frankly, if Nintendo were to put out a new Super Mario Bros. Game, which they have one on the Wii U and also on the Nintendo Switch, which I believe was ported over from the Wii U. Regardless, you understand what I'm saying. If there was a mainline Super Mario Bros. Game, there is a definitive end to that, even if they do pump out some DLC. With Super Mario Maker 2, there are new levels as long as people are playing the game. And if the original Super Mario Maker is anything to go off of, people will continue making these levels into the foreseeable future. So you are pretty much good to go on having brand new content, and also incredibly creative content at that. If you are a streamer, this is a phenomenal way to break into the streaming space right now because so many people are interested in seeing fan-made levels on stream. So many people are interested in seeing the hardest levels accomplished. It's just a great time to be getting into the Super Mario Maker world. But if you do have a Nintendo Switch, again, the game came out on June the 28th. If you do want to dive in and check out the magic of Super Mario Maker 2. But maybe you're still stuck playing Fortnite, which is also on the Nintendo Switch, as well as the PS4, the Xbox One mobile platforms, and the PC. But, did I say Xbox One? Maybe. It's on everything. Literally just about everything. Maybe your washing machine has it. But now it has airstrikes in a can. Fortnite, which you may have heard of, is added again, this time adding a sort of airstrike in a can as part of its latest content update. The new item, known simply as, and rather unglamorously as airstrike, is a throwable canister that emits a plume of colored smoke, summoning a downward plop or flurry, as Epic more elegantly puts it, of missiles from above. Mayhem and death ensue as demonstrated in the accompanying cinematic below. Excuse me. If it's facts you want with your preposterous Battle Royale action, however, then Epic has those too. It says that, after a short delay, missiles spawn around 120 meters above the canister's final resting place. 20 missiles will rain down in total, and They aim for a random point within 9 meters of the canister. Will do 75 points of damage to each and 200 points of damage to structures caught in the 3.5 meter blast radius, if you were curious as to just how much this would be impacting your overall gameplay experience. So we can approach this from two different ways, if you will. Number one, I'm a big fan of this. I love airstrikes in games. The Predator missile from Modern Warfare 2, whenever I was first playing that, was the pinnacle of my experience. I loved that exact scenario. Airstrikes in general are just fun to call in, and the biggest point that I want to make here is that whenever you have a giant, say, structure that needs to be taken down a notch, guess what? You can chunk an airstrike, boom, shakalaka, you're good to go. It is taken down because, again, the damage is amplified whenever you're talking about a building or a structure within the world of Fortnite. However, on the flip side of that coin, you also have competitive tournaments coming up in just a couple of weeks, and this is a brand new element that's been thrown into the fray. Part of me is excited about that because it does keep things fresh, it does keep things active, and it keeps things new, but also it's very unfair to people that have been training for this, that have been practicing with a team, if you're thinking about the competitive scene, that have no idea how to effectively use this in their setups. So to some degree it makes things interesting, but also people are incredibly unprepared and are unable to use this thing to its fullest advantage. But again, you've got 2 weeks to figure out how it works. And of course, it's an airstrike, so it's not exactly that hard. But it could be a fun time to dive in and check it out if you did want to check out the brand new version 9.3 update included with this week's Fortnite rundown. Looks to be a pretty good time. However, maybe you want to make some Fortnite YouTube videos and you want to use some copyrighted music. Guess what? That's all changing. Thank God, I think it's for the better. YouTube is making it easier for creators to deal with copyright claims. Manual content ID claims will now have to specify exactly what part of a video it's infringing, and there are better tools for fixing them. It's a good thing to hear. Videos on YouTube are often flagged for copyright infringement under the Content ID system, which automatically references a giant database of audio and video files and looks for copies. But in addition to those automatic matches, copyright holders can also make manual claims against videos through Content ID, forcing videos offline or running ads on them for their own monetization. The kicker is that those claims haven't even had to specify what exactly in the video was infringing until now. Quote, starting today, we will require copyright owners to provide timestamps to indicate exactly where their content appears in videos they manually claim, and we are improving our video editing tools in Creator Studio to make it easier for creators to remove the content associated with these claims, writes YouTube on the Creator blog. Another problem of the old manual claiming system was that claims couldn't automatically be released. That means that even if creators identified the supposedly infringing material, like a song in a certain portion of the video, and removed it, it would still be marked as infringing until someone manually cleared it. YouTube's Creator Studio page will now show timestamps for the supposedly infringing material and offer some built-in tools for dealing with it without having to upload an entirely new video. It'll be easy to mute the section of the video, cut it out altogether, or replace the audio with any song from the royalty-free YouTube audio library. This may do little to stop bogus copyright claims on YouTube, which sequesters ad revenue until the claim is resolved. Missing out on that ad revenue isn't going to sink, say, NBC Universal, but it can destroy smaller channels who need that income to survive. It's a common issue with automatic content ID matches, like when Beat Saber videos started getting flagged because the game was played on Jimmy Fallon's show. Manual claims, at least, will now have to be more specific. The new process isn't retroactive for existing manual claims, but going forward, YouTube tweeted it will be evaluating the accuracy of timestamps. Failing to provide the accurate data is considered a violation of our manual claiming guidelines. Claimants who repeatedly do this will have their access to manual claiming revoked. Responses to the news via Twitter have been largely positive, but we will see how this shakes out as time goes on. And so, thank God, as somebody who does a ton of YouTube content and creates stuff throughout the week, this is a really comforting update to hear because I have been hit by copyright claims. I have been the victim in a specific scenario in which you do have a video that's doing very well that you're not making any kind of profit off of because, quite frankly, somebody else took the ad revenue because maybe I used a song or a small clip of a video, whatever it might be. I'm not the only one out there, and there are many people that have been taken advantage of over that entire system, and it's just not a good place to be as a creator. And so YouTube becoming more creator friendly and offering tools for you to fix your mistakes without having to go through some kind of awful system just makes sense. It's something that's pretty much a little bit late, if I'm being honest with you all. But better late than never, as the kids do say. Hopefully, it will be a system that works out for the better as time does continue to go on and as we see how this system does work. But again, you know YouTube, it's always up in the air with YouTube. You never really know if they're going to be hitting the nail on the head or if I'm going to be smacking my forehead on a nail. That was a bit violent, wasn't it? Moving on to the next topic of the day. July's Nintendo Switch Online NES games and Rewind feature have been announced, the latter of which is the more exciting little tidbit. Nintendo has announced that Donkey Kong 3 and Wrecking Crew will be added to the Nintendo Switch Online NES library this month alongside a brand new Rewind feature that will be available with the entire collection of NES games. On Wednesday, July 17th, these two titles will join the ever-growing list of NES classics that saw Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, Volleyball, and City Connection added last month. As for the Rewind feature, which also is releasing on July 17th, players will be able to press and hold ZL and ZR to rewind and quickly fix any mistake that may have occurred or simply just replay an awesome section of a level. And so, of course, again, you have Donkey Kong 3 and Wrecking Crew. Donkey Kong 3, based on the third game in the enormously popular arcade series, Donkey Kong 3 introduces an exterminator named Stanley as he desperately tries to protect the flowers in his greenhouse from Donkey Kong. Armed only with a can of bug spray, Stanley must force Donkey Kong higher and higher into the treehouse rafters until Donkey Kong is off the screen and the next stage is reached. Wrecking Crew, in the days before Mario and Luigi became sports stars, their own downtime from saving the princess, they tried to their hands as one-man wrecking crews. With a hammer as your only tool, take control of the brothers and set out to destroy ladders, rip out pipes, knock out walls, and detonate explosive devices, but make sure to plan your path of destruction carefully as each building is designed as its own clever puzzle. And so, those are your two games you're going to be getting for July 2019 with the Nintendo Switch Online subscription. But the Rewind feature is the big standout thing for me here. Of course, there have been a lot of articles written about the Rewind feature, but essentially it's kind of like Forza Horizon, where if you are going along on your own merry way in Forza and you run into a tree, oh no, what am I going to do? I push the rewind button and boom shakalaka, 15 seconds back, you are good to go. You can avoid that mistake. That's pretty much what you are getting with the NES Classics. Now, some people may say, isn't that cheating? Doesn't that take the fun out of playing Donkey Kong or any of these other games that have been added? Absolutely not, because quite frankly, you don't have to use it. It makes more sense to include it rather than not, and also I think it's a pretty cool feature because, hey, if you screw something up and you're very far into a level, why not go ahead and just redo it if nothing really matters, and you can just enjoy the game however you want to enjoy the game. So, if you do want to pick up Nintendo Switch Online, think about it first, because if you have Twitch Prime, you get a whole year for free. But on top of that, if you don't, there are many, many bundles out there. And of course, the service itself is incredibly affordable as compared to stuff like PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold if you did want to pick it up. But again, only on the Nintendo Switch, and you do get a couple of bells and whistles, including some freebie games. But speaking of Xbox services, Xbox Game Pass adds Play Later feature. Your name will also go on the list. There is a new feature for Xbox Game Pass, Microsoft's game subscription service with now over 200 games included. It's called Play Later and it lives on your console desktop under the Xbox Game Pass section, or you can also curate it via the Xbox mobile app. As you would expect, it's a list of things you want to play when you're able to find the time, something I found myself thinking about a lot when browsing the bulging Games Pass vault, the author says. It's a wish list then, except you already own access to everything on it. The only thing you are missing, however, is the time to get stuck in it. Xbox One's July update, which should begin rolling around about now, includes this and other improvements to the Xbox skill for Alexa. You can now browse the Game Pass catalog using your voice, ask which games are new and which may be leaving soon. And finally, Alexa support is being added to Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy. Okay, we're just going with that this morning. Italy, Mexico, and Spain. Excelente, they say over at Eurogamer. But if you do want to dive in and check out Game Pass, again, I stand behind my statement that this is one of the best deals in gaming. You get so much bang for your buck if you do want to get some games on your Xbox One. And of course, the PC version of Game Pass is rolling out currently, and it is also shaping up to be quite the beneficial offer if you do want to get yet another subscription service. But the Play Later feature is a pretty big deal because, again, there are so many games on Game Pass that you can't possibly play all of them when you want to play all of them. And so to be able to kind of, put a little dog ear to kind of mark what ones you want to come back to have a wish list specifically for that's not even necessarily a wish list. It just, quite frankly, makes sense, and it's a cool feature to see coming to the Xbox. I wish the Xbox One had been the console that it is today whenever it launched back alongside the PlayStation 4, because if the Xbox One had been on par with the marketing team behind the PlayStation 4, we would have a very different console race going into the next generation of consoles, because I do love the Xbox, and next gen is shaping up to be quite impressive, if I do say so myself. And again, with features like this, how could it not be? But with that being said, that rounds out today's episode of Caffeinate. Of course, if you are brand new to the show, I do hope you enjoyed what I brought to the table. Again, I apologize if I seem a bit frazzled, a bit tired, because I am both. I've been up for a very long time, but we'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode of Caffeinate at or around 7 a.m., probably a bit later. But you can always follow me on twitter.com/prettychillguy to stay up to date and informed on everything happening in the gaming industry, in my life, and in the content that I make. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. I will talk to you soon, and peace.